It as an implosion. You could call this an explosion. Raiders and the Packers. Who was the better Aaron here, Dan?
I'm going to say Aaron Jones, because the ball's thrown a little bit on the inside. The ability to track the ball, turn his body, find it again, and make that catch. So impressive.
Then let's give this one to Aaron Rodgers, I would say, as he connects with Jake Kumaro, right?
Yeah, move the safety towards the middle of the field, and then an absolute dime right over the right shoulder of Kumaro. He makes a great catch, and then the tightrope leap to get that ball inside the pylon.
Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, obviously pretty happy. They're in sync. Third quarter we go. It's Rodgers to Jimmy Graham. Keep in mind, they don't have Devontae Adams, Coach. How are you supposed to defend this?
I have no idea. Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. But the thing I like most is the head coach put a hat on. He looks better.
I love that that's your biggest takeaway. And then here it is, Rodgers connecting with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. 5 touchdowns for Rodgers through the air, most since 2015. He also ran one in. And the Packers absolutely rout the Raiders. 42-24 was the final. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers and that performance, an absolute explosion. He accumulated more total touchdowns yesterday than he did in the team's previous 4 games combined. He also made a career high with 2 50-yard completions on the day. So I will start with you, Dan. To what do you attribute what we saw yesterday from Green Bay?
Well, yesterday was the head coach and the play caller almost being like a pitcher and catcher in baseball. A lot of times we watch a catcher give a signal to a pitcher and he waves it off. That was not the case. This was one of those times where you watched a pitcher never wave off the catcher, meaning on the same page the whole time. They're seeing the game the same way yesterday, where Matt LaFleur is making calls to, hey, I'm making this play call to get the ball out of your hand quickly. This is not a ball that we're going to throw downfield. So he's getting it out quickly to tailbacks and quickly to some tight ends. And as a quarterback, when you're operating the offense like this and it's getting out of your hands so quickly, you're telling the play caller, I'm seeing this the same way you are. And then as a play caller, you go, okay, then I feel good about taking some shots downfield with some play action pass and trusting your quarterback. This right now is perfect symphony between play caller and quarterback.
Yeah, we never saw that early in the year. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
So we finally saw it. First game that we've seen that offense really click. And guess what? They've lost one game all season because their defense has been there the whole year. They create turnovers. And now, you talk about a message to the entire league. This is absolutely scary because if Aaron Rodgers can be the Aaron Rodgers that we know, and we mentioned it. Hell, you mentioned there's no Devontae Adams. Oh, your best receiver, that he's not out there? You got guys that never even practiced during the week, and he's going to put up these kind of numbers? I mean, it is scary. They're running the football better than they have in recent years. Their defense certainly playing better than they have. In him, it's scary.
As a best friend of Aaron Rodgers, he and I played golf together in the Bahamas. No big deal. We won there. After the first game against the Chicago Bears, I think whenever you saw him kind of light up with his eyes and his personality after an abysmal performance by that offense, and he said, we have a defense, you could see that something special was possibly going to start brewing there. If him and LaFleur could get on the same page, which I would argue in Dallas they did, given Aaron Jones 4 touchdowns there, the offense started working, Aaron started showing some trust. But I think Aaron's big thing is he kills him with indifference. He never gives any answers with any real depth in it. All he's been talking about is how much fun they're having, how good the defense is, how well-rounded the team. The last time Aaron Rodgers was gifted a top 10 defense was in 2010. They won the Super Bowl. So now you got hot Aaron Rodgers. You got a great defense, good special teams. I've been saying it for a few weeks. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and I think this is going to be the start of something beautiful with LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron never had to learn a new offense until this year, so there was obviously going to be some stumbling off the blocks, but now we're getting a chance to watch Aaron Rodgers dominate, which is going to be fun for the rest of the league.
Let me say one other thing here, and not taking anything. Rodgers was brilliant. They look great right now. They feel like the team to beat in the NFC. But there was one play that completely turned this game yesterday, and it was this play by Derek Carr. If you weren't watching, this game was back and forth and back and forth, and the Raiders were matching them score for score. And as he is diving, by the way, this is going to be a first down. This is not a fourth down play. My 16-year-old son on the couch screams, don't hold the ball out like that. Now, I happen to hate this rule. I think they should change the rule. But we know it's the rule. Rex, what is he doing extending the ball in his left hand? It completely turns the game.
It's such a boneheaded play. It's not even funny. And if it was the first time he ever did that, then you might say, well, he's going to learn from it. Well, he's already done this before. This isn't the first time this has happened. But you're right, Greeny. It totally flipped momentum. And is momentum important in games? Oh, my gosh. And it was over. As soon as he fumbled that ball, the game was over, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard Bill Belichick talk, and when he teaches his players and his quarterbacks how to handle this situation, he says there's really 2 times that you can reach the ball out: 4th down and 2-point conversion. Other than that, it's never really worth it. And a lot of guys get away with it, and this situation never happens until it happens to you. And so, listen, it's a bad play by Derek Carr. It's also a really stupid rule. Like, you should not get penalized. If the ball is on the 40-yard line and this happens, the ball just goes back to where the fumble happened. It should not be a turnover.
Go ahead and ask me.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and ask me.
like the rule?
Of course I do.
Rex
It's a chance for a defensive thing,
for not making a play.
I'm saying this. I mean, it is crazy, but it's been in the rule book forever. And you know it as a player. We saw earlier the guy dives across to get it. Yeah, what's he got? He's got 2 hands on the football.
Right.
Correct.
Like, that's the thing where nobody makes this mistake. We see it time and time again. You've got to teach them, and for some reason, it never registered for this guy.
Final thought, Pat. Go ahead.
Ball security is job security, Dan.
Thank you very much.
I've never heard it.
From the punter.
So we had that. Again, the way Rodgers played, they were going to win anyway.
Oh,
but
man.
that was a terrible play, and it completely changed the game. Now we get to Saints, Bears, Mitchell Trubisky. Pat, what do we think of him?
A lot of people are saying, oh, brother, this guy stinks.
He probably does. That's Trubisky back from the injury, and he was just awful throwing the ball to no one. They've got a punt block there, so now it's 2-0, and here's Trubisky. And Dan, he's got a man open.
Yeah, and this is the story right now for Mitchell Trubisky is too many misses to open receivers. In the NFL, those have to be completions.
He threw 23 passes in the first half. They had 78 yards. Middle of the third. How about this play for the Saints?
You don't see this often. It is the handoff to the fullback and then allow him to run speed option on the defensive end. I love that. You get your fullback going horizontally, hand it off to him, you put Floyd in a bind, and then he pitches to Taysom Hill, the Mr. Do-It-All for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, here's Taysom Hill doing it all again, this time taking it in for the score, and it's 26-10.
We've seen this little screen from the Saints before. They motion him over, get blockers out in front, big body touchdown.
And then Trubisky again. Pat McAfee, your observation?
A lot of people in Chicago saying, this guy stinks.
Wait for it.
It's very hard to argue. Matt Nagy, what's going on with your quarterback?
Being 3-3, here's what I'll tell them. You ready? I'll just tell you. I talk about the horse blinders and the earmuffs. Don't listen to anything outside, because right now it's not going to be good. You know.
Yes, it's not.
Accurate.
Let's start that not so good part right now. Let's start by making it reasonable. Mitchell Trubisky will always be the guy the Bears traded up to take in front of Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Nothing is going to change that. Yeah. That doesn't, however, have to impact our judgment of how good or bad he is. Why did he look so awful yesterday?
Well, mechanically, he's a mess. And that's been the story of his season, is his feet are all over the place. He's the only quarterback that throws with both feet off the ground, and it affects his accuracy so much. The best way to describe him right now and the impact he's having on the football team, because Matt Nagy is now getting too creative with stuff. Like, he's trying to find ways to have something positive happen for this offense, and they're getting too kind of tricky or too cute, and they can't turn to anything for this offense that they go, you know what, when things aren't going well, we can go do this, and it's affecting their play calling. I guess the best analogy I have is, like, right now, Mitchell Trubisky's a zit. Like, you're trying to find, it's a bad situation, and you're trying any way you can to cover it up, and that cover-up is only making things worse with that situation.
Some zinc oxide or whatever you want to put on this might be to run the football. What the hell? They don't run the football anymore.
They can't.
And to me, I mean, you got a struggling quarterback. Hey, I'm not the smartest cat of all time, but when we struggle, we ran the football down your throat. And that's what you got to do right now. This kid is playing with zero confidence. And when you look at it, hey, the GM was the guru. He got GM of the year or the decade or whatever, because Mitch Trubisky was Maserati Mitch. Yeah, well, guess what? We got to go back. The kids lost confidence. You got to find a way to get confidence, and the way you do that is run the football and put it in somebody else's hand. And by the way, sit back and say, "Come on, let's go."
How about this? Yesterday, he's coming off of being out with the dislocated shoulder and the torn labrum. They ran the ball the least amount of times in a game ever in the history of their organization, 7 times.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's not great, Bob. I mean, obviously, those types of numbers aren't great, especially in Chicago. And I think you're always going to have buyer's remorse whenever you draft a guy ahead of 3 potential MVP candidates. And you also got to add in Christian McCaffrey, who he was drafted ahead of, who has been dominating football this year. But with that being said, earlier in the year, we were talking about this defense being this 2000 Ravens, 85 Bears defense. They were wrecking games. They were all of these things. It feels as if that defense has lost their soul, almost like they lost their drive to succeed because they know if they get the ball on the offensive side, they're not going to do anything. I mentioned this about the Cowboys, about trading for a quarterback. I often wonder if Cam Newton, who in the Carolina Panthers have been unbeatable without him playing, coming back from a Mrs. Frank injury, if he was to get traded to the Bears, would they be better immediately? I say yes. I think that is an accurate thing, and I think Bears fans would all be excited about that as well.
I feel like we would be remiss, though, if we talked about this game and we didn't mention for 1 second what Sean Payton did yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a lot about what the Bears didn't do. He didn't have Alvin Kamara. He doesn't have Drew Brees. And meanwhile, he went toe-to-toe with that Chicago and absolutely railroaded them. Can we talk about what they did and what the Saints are currently doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's half your roster's not there. And yet, you know how they won? They dominated both lines of scrimmage with their offensive line and their defensive line. They totally dominated this tough Chicago Bear team that, to me, looks like paper champions.
Yeah, right now they're the best team in football, and Sean Payton's the second best coach in football right now.
Who's the first?
Belichick. I'm not.
Okay.
Bill Belichick's the best coach in football, but Sean Payton's the second best right now.
Best team in football, Aaron Rodgers on line 2 may have another idea.
Okay. Yeah, how about
We're
the 49ers?
Just getting started. China versus the NBA was the story of this preseason. How will the league navigate this time? Adam Silver is here. We'll talk about it live in just a few minutes. And then we'll be back to football the rest of the morning. If ever the Cowboys needed a win, it was last night. How Dak got the help he needed from an unlikely place. We're just getting started.